What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi. I'm with my man Eric Sheets Haber as usual, but we have Pearce Dietrich in the house with us today. A very knowledgeable and profitable player, NASCAR. We're going to be talking a little MLB today. Pearce, great to have you, and yeah, it'll be fun to sort of go through this slate with you and just sort of see how this goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm interested to learn from you guys as well.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Definitely excited to do this with you guys. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to do this like we're doing this early the night before. So we don't have projections uploaded. We're going to be talking about plays that we like from the game and going over just some general strategy stuff while we break down the slate. But as I say that, I'm going to share my screen. Just give me 1 second here and we are good to go. So let's see. We're going to go game by game. I just think it's the easiest way to do things instead of doing a slate overview, especially without projections and even knowing for sure who's playing and all that. It's a little tough, no umpire data and stuff like that right now. So we're going to just talk about strictly DraftKings here to start off with, and we will jump over. Maybe we'll talk a little FanDuel if we need to at the end, but I think most things are going to be fairly similar as they usually are in baseball for me. FanDuel, you can fit everybody in if you want to and pay up for pitching, and DraftKings, occasionally you have to make some different gambles on your SP2s, is what I would think anyway. All right, starting it off, Baltimore, Cleveland. I'll start with you, Pearce. Kluber and Kramer. Like, I actually think Kluber is better. You
mean Baltimore, New York?
What did I say?
Cleveland, because of Kluber. Yeah.
My fault. I got.
You gotta get used to that. You gotta get used to that, Pearce.
Yeah, I will.
I'm not used to.
Oh yeah, Bobby's all over the place, man.
That's definitely can be true. But I do think that there is massive upside for Kluber in this matchup. I really like him as I'm putting it right now. He's one of the guys I'm considering for tomorrow. And at the same time, I will definitely consider both a Yankees stack and a mini stack. Individually, players like Judge has gotten priced up a little bit more, but he's still under 5K. Torres is out with the COVID, so I don't know what's happening with that exactly. The other guys are pretty expensive, Urshela, Sanchez. But overall, I do think this is a good spot, and the Yankees go crazy every time they go to Baltimore. So I'm interested in the Yankees bats, and I'm interested in Kluber right off the bat. How about you, Pearce, and then Sheets? Why don't you say your thoughts?
So I went pretty deep into Kluber today. I know we've talked about sometimes we get into this arms race of looking at some of the more obscure stats, but sometimes there's something there. And if you look at Kluber this year, he's doubled. I mean, he's been pitching for a while. So if you see something change in his pitch mix, there's something interesting there. And he's doubled his changeup usage. And it's been a really, really good pitch for him this season. He struck out 7 Tigers with the changeup alone, got 13 swings and misses with that changeup pitch. And if you look at the Tigers all season long, they rank about 8th against changeups. And so that factors in the game where they were terrible against changeups, and they're still a really good team. And he's going to face Baltimore, who is the second worst this season against changeups. So I've got to believe there's going to be a ton of strikeouts here for Kluber.
Yep.
I think it's a really good spot.
No, that's great stuff. I mean, those are I absolutely totally agree. I actually didn't know. I knew that Baltimore in general with off-speed pitches is really bad. I didn't realize they were that far back. But yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense, and I think there is massive upside to this. On this price tag, which is funny because a couple of weeks ago people were acting like you couldn't play him at 7,500 because he's done. That's how people think in this, and you just got to believe in the long-term results. What about you, Eric? What do you think about your Yankees?
I am such a freaking projection monkey. I mean, like I'm trying to do this the night before and trying to figure out like which of these guys I would play, and I couldn't imagine a universe where Kluber would make my list. That's like the funny thing. Like I'm looking at like Glass now, and Scherzer up at the top, right? And then I'm looking down below even, and I'm looking at other guys. Maybe Kluber might end up getting there. We had this discussion, right, a couple of starts ago where once it just looked for just a second like Kluber was finished, right? And Bobby, you even mentioned in one of his last starts, like, is it possible that Kluber is not done? I'm like, nah, it's not possible. He's done. And I don't think anybody's gotten a hit off of him since. So maybe he has turned it around, and maybe Kluber could end up a pretty decent play, like you said. Yeah, I'll temporarily authorize this one.
I mean, if you look, he hasn't given up really hardly any hard contact in the last 4 games or so.
Mhm.
And the Baltimore against right-handed pitching is a 79 WRC plus, a 278 WOBA, 139 ISO. It's a good lineup to target too.
Dude, the fact is, Bobby, I mean, if this guy shut down the Tigers, I mean, Tigers are like the
Can do no wrong.
Tigers are the greatest hitting team in baseball. So I don't think they've gotten out since they played against Kluber. I'll definitely put him in my list of guys tomorrow.
Yeah, one other thing to note about guys like Kluber, just he's notoriously a slow starter throughout his entire career. He's always a guy who sort of pitches himself into shape a little bit during the season. And I just see the same thing happening right now. And I think we're actually getting potentially low ownership and a discount on a guy who could be one of the highest scoring pitchers of the night.
Speaking of that slow start, if you look at his fly ball rate he started out the season, I mean, not really. I mean, he hasn't really been giving up any fly balls at all. So if you're worried about Baltimore and giving up, home runs, he's been really good at not getting hit hard and keeping the ball on the ground.
Absolutely. The only thing that's been a little bit different this year for him has been his control. He's usually been he's usually had really solid control, and it's been a little bit evading him, but I still love this spot for him. So with that, this is not right for who's pitching, right? Isn't Griffin Canning pitching right now?
I had Dean Kramer for Baltimore.
Oh, we could talk about sorry, I skipped the Yankees bats there for you guys, but I jumped over to the next game. I for some reason they had the same pitcher for Boston who's pitching right now, I believe. Yeah, so the Yankees bats wise, they're expensive, but this is a great, stack to get away from what's going to be some other popular stacks that are really expensive that we know are coming. Sheets, I'll start with you on this one. What do you think about the Yankees versus Kramer?
I think they finally started to price these guys a little better. I mean, better meaning fair. I mean, Judge is getting up there at least 4,900. Have to play him now. I remember all those. Remember, we were able to play Stanton at 4,400 every game for a while. So at least you can't do that anymore. Voigt's 5,200. So I hope Hiagosha gets in at 3,300. But initially these guys look fair. You know what I mean? I don't think that I'm in a big hurry to jam on it.
I just think that so Kramer, just my thoughts, first of all, they lit him up already. That's one thing. I'm not saying you should put everything into that, but
this will be their 3rd time against him.
Yeah, that's right. And he was good the first time out, right? Or no, he was not good. He was
okay, and then they let him up.
They didn't score 100 runs like we projected them to. But
imagine the Yankees letting us down.
Yeah. The one thing, it's funny because I actually like this. It speaks a little bit to one-offs. I know his the control's not great, but he is around the plate and he doesn't strike out a lot of guys, which for the Yankees team, that's literal only problem with their lineup is the strikeouts. How can we not have some interest in these guys? And I would put Judge as number 1, Stanton as number 2. And I mean, from there on, maybe it depends on where Sanchez would be in the lineup, or Higashikawa. I would like. I would probably be skipping Luke Voigt though, until he's more back into form, and also he's really expensive. So that's sort of the way I'd rank them. But I do like this as a stack or a mini stack. How about you, Pearce?
Yeah, every time I've rostered Stanton or Judge, they just haven't been. I guess they're hitting better now. Stanton's got a 408 WOBA against righties.
He's been crushing.
Judge is up there. They've turned it on. So I think really my biggest thing is just the bias of rostering them during the wrong time and trying to shake that off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I understand. I just think this is I'm going to definitely be on this one tomorrow for sure. Let's talk about the Angels in Boston. I don't actually know who's pitching for. Oh no, Griffin Canning's not pitching. I got it totally mixed up. Pivetta, the league changing and everything in the short season last year has still got me mixed up. I see Pivetta, I'm thinking Phillies. I see Canning. I don't know why I always get him mixed up with guy. I can't think of the Angels starter I'm sorry, the Sheets' guy, Garrett Richards. I always get Griffin Canning and Garrett Richards mixed up. All right, so this is a game that actually Boston is exploding tonight. I don't think I could play either pitcher, even though the Angels offense has been awful. But And I like the Boston bats, but I just have to say, just in terms of individual hitters, I prefer the Yankees. Pavetta's pretty good against righties. The other than Walsh and Ohtani, who are also expensive, it's hard for me to have a ton of interest here. I would love to see what the weather is like. If it's great hitting conditions and the wind's blowing out and there's a 30% bump to home run rates or something, I would have a lot more interest in this game. But overall, I think that I'm probably not going to be playing a ton of the hitting in this game, even though Boston certainly makes some sense. What about you, Pearce?
Yeah, I'm on the same spot. Well, I think I probably would be a little bit more likely to play Boston against Canning, who not great last year, not good this year. Pivetta, I don't know what to do with Pivetta. I've never known what to do with Pivetta. So I will
like him. I usually like him against right-handed heavy lineups, but this is a good one with a couple lefties in there that are decent. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's
we
why.
got to see the Angels lineup. I know they rolled out that crazy lineup the other day, so maybe I mean, Trout can hit his crushing righties. You got Ohtani, you got Walsh. I don't think it's the greatest matchup in the world. I'm not gonna play him.
Yeah, the only guy I would mention is if for some reason he batted cleanup the other day, Taylor Ward at 2,500 would likely get. Oh no, actually maybe he wouldn't get the start here. Never mind. That would be against the lefty, so he probably won't get the start anyway. But if for some reason he was in the lineup batting in a reasonable spot, he's the one guy I'd sort of targeted. How about you, Sheets? Anything in this game?
Yeah, I don't not quite how to brand this, but this has become one of the things I've been doing, coming up with recently is this is one of those matchups, Bobby, that I talk about that I think both pitchers are fine. The hitting's just kind of fine. Like it's not like a good hitter against bad pitcher or bad pitcher against good or whatever. I think they're, everybody rates to have like kind of an average game, so on a big slate, I just like to think I'd be able to find something better than any of the pitching or any of the hitting over there.
Yep. We can kind of move on from that. I think that literally weather could dictate this for me. In Boston, if you get the right weather, it's just, I love it. I mean, I can't resist it sometimes, but as of right now, I'm sort of with you guys a little bit on this one. Glasnow. Okay. You mentioned Glasnow before. I wish this game was in New York, so he'd be pitching in the National League Park. He's expensive. You do get a discount on Kluber over him. I'm expecting Glasnow will be fairly popular. You look at the pitches, it's a little different than last year where nothing was more than really 90, and now he's up in the 100 range pretty much every game. The strikeout rate is incredible. The floor is really high. The lineup he's facing, I think, is oddly a little bit tougher. I mean, you do have some really good lefties in there, or some potentially decent lefties in there. But overall, I just think that I'm going to end up looking to do something different with my pitching. I mild interest, but talk me in or out of it, Pearce.
I'm just going to swallow this chalk.
Go
Glasnow's been really good, and the Mets, they look good on paper, but then again, they looked good on paper last year, and these guys aren't hitting now. I mean, maybe they're hitting now. I got to look and see, but for the most part, their offense, they don't score runs. They disappoint. And I mean, so it's a 94 WRC plus, 301 WOB as a team, 115 ISO. And I know their strikeout rate's not that high, but a guy like Glasnow, it's not going to matter. He just strikes people out. He's going deep in the games. And I guess he's the highest priced guy right now, but if this is, July, he would be $12,000 probably.
Right.
There's the way they've been doing these pricing. I think you just keep playing these expensive pitchers. You're getting the guaranteed strikeouts. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to be in a National League Park and get that pitcher strikeout, but he's also pitching in Tampa, so that's pretty safe. So I understand trying to get different because he'll probably be the most popular pitcher, I would imagine, and to try to get away from that, I get it, but I think I'm just going to take the obvious play here.
So in general, though, what you touched on is something that Sheets can attest to that I totally agree with. Like, just get your pitchers in that you want. Like, I don't even care. Get the right pitchers in. Occasionally, a guy like Kluber, if he's a little lower owned, and I think he has the same upside or higher potentially, maybe the same upside. I shouldn't say higher. Then I'll do something different. But like in general, I just think you get your pitchers. You can always get different with hitters in baseball. It's especially on full slates like this. But personally, I do want to point out, like, I'm not going to target him, but the guy gives up. He's been wild at times, and he's given up a lot of home runs. Like, he gives up some pretty hard contact when they do make it's walk, strikeout, and home runs. you on a small slate, I'd be looking to take advantage of that and actually look for a bat against him. I'm not going to do it on this slate because I just don't think there's any reason to. Sheets, what do you think about the pitching? And then is there any interest in the hitting for you?
Yeah, so I'm with Pearce in a couple of ways here. Number one, I think Glass now is kind of like right up there with the top of the top as far as pitching goes, to the point of almost matchup proof, not exactly quite. The other thing that I agree with him on is and I think I use the words exactly the way he used them, is that the Mets, like, well, on paper, always look like a team that shouldn't, it should be better, right? Like, especially when you're facing a righty, because they have all those lefties in there, and they're probably their best hitter, like Alonso is the one righty, and every time it looks like you want to play these guys, and they just never seem to do anything, So
I mean, their ISO is 115. There's no reason why they should have that when you have all these mashers.
Doesn't make sense.
But maybe it's an illusion. Maybe they stink. Maybe maybe they fired Chili Davis. They letting him take the rap for all this. I actually prefer him to Scherzer.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. But let me say you on something else here. So we used to play like the whatever tight ends were going against the Browns, we would play, right? Or whatever tight ends against the Giants or certain stream things. We've been freaking playing pitchers against Tampa like every freaking game because they just do nothing but strike out. Is it the worst idea in the world to play Peterson here?
Especially against lefties, they struggle because their best hitters are lefties for the most part. That'd be another than a Rosarena. I think that it's interesting. I think there's upside with him because of, again, if they throw out that lineup, even if they put Lau down to 6th and they leave Meadows in it, as much as those guys have power and are dangerous on the bases and stuff like that, they strike out a lot, especially against lefties. So maybe you're onto something a little bit with this as a discounted pitcher. I didn't really think about it much, to be honest, because it's such a big slate. But I do think that maybe he's onto something. Pierce, any interest in Peterson?
Well, two things. I do want to go back to Glass now. We were mentioning the home runs. But like I mentioned, the ISO, and you can go through these. The Mets, I mean, they've got pretty good WOBAs, but they're not hitting extra base hits at all. They're not slugging. So that really, like, if that's the big worry for Glass now, is him giving up too much, home runs. This team's not doing it. But yeah, with Peterson, I mean, really, it comes down, do they strike out a lot against lefties? Yes. Well, then I think the price is kind of, what is this price here?
74.
Nothing.
What is it?
74. I think it's pretty reasonable. 74.
It is very reasonable with their ability to strike out, and they don't hit lefties very well.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to face a DH, but
I mean, other than Boston, and actually he pitched a good game in that game. Like, you have a pretty good K per inning in general on him. He's flashed upside against teams that are even good against lefties. I think that it's reasonable play. I didn't think about it, so I'll put it on my list for now. Let's move on to Chicago and Detroit. So what's happening? I don't know. I don't think Arrieta is going to be starting, but I could be wrong. Is this official? Oh, I guess he is going to start it. Never mind. I thought that he was still had another like 5 days, but that's my bad. I don't think I can obviously play him even at a really, really reasonable price for anybody. Skubal, I'm not going to play, but it crossed my mind as a cheap guy for a minute. I don't think I'm interested in the bats in this game. I know Sheets probably was all over stacking Detroit. So I'll let Sheets start this one off. Sheets.
No, I'm not into Detroit at all today. If they were going against like a chalky SP2, I'd have all the interest in the world, but just as kind of a team against, and Arrieta's not, he's not the kind of guy I want to go after really. He's got, like I sometimes say, he's got some tricks, you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to just lob the ball over the plate. He can be a good, decent washed up righty. This is the year of the washed up lefties. He can be a decent washed up righty. I'm not too interested in Detroit at all here, actually.
Yeah, and they priced the Cubs basically. I almost don't feel like we can even talk about them because they're basically priced as if this game was being played at Coors.
Oh, really?
I mean, Javier Baez, I love against lefties in general. I love him, and he's one of my favorite DFS guys to roster because he'll run every now and then, and he's swings for the fences every time. Javier Baez is 6,100. That's crazy. All of these prices are crazy. Yeah, you could argue that it's a good contrarian. Detroit's got a terrible bullpen. You can get to Scooble, all that stuff. But I just can't get to it on this slate. How about you, Pearce?
Yeah, and that's what I was looking at earlier, that it is a great matchup, but it's still the Cubs. And I know they're hitting a little bit better, but that's a lot to pay. I mean, I didn't, even before I saw these prices, like, do I really want to go to the Cubs on this slate? There's other stacks and other spots that I think are just better. And yeah, it's probably not going to be for me.
Total agreement. Good move past it game, I think. Finally, we get a move past it game with Detroit. It's Sheets. It feels like every day we're talking about we're either going to stack this or take the pitchers. It's every day. All right. Philly and Toronto. If this was in Philly, I would have much more interest in Velasquez than I do. I think that his strikeout upside is still there. I know he struggled towards the end of that Atlanta game, but he actually pitched really well for a good portion of it against a good offense. I think that he's look at his value, like whatever. I'm not going to do it on this slate. And at the same time, he's combustible. He can explode. And I love this Toronto team. They've been running more and more actually as the season's gone on. Like they literally are starting to just hammer it. I think with Velasquez's control, I think you could argue for some Toronto bats, but I'm not interested in either pitcher. I think that Matz is good enough for me not to say, okay, Hoskins is really good against lefties. I'm going to play him. He is cheap enough. But I just am sort of going to stay away from this one. It's another one. It's a great hitter's park. That's the thing. I want to take some advantage of that, but I don't know exactly what I want to do, and I don't feel like stacking the teams because I believe enough in each pitcher, and it's a giant slate. If it was a small slate like today, I would be saying this is a spot where you can stack both sides, and I just don't have it on a full slate in me. How about you guys? Any interest in the pitching or the hitting? How about you, Pearce?
I would look at Toronto righties against Velasquez. Velasquez struggling this season against righties, and I mean, really his numbers against both sides of the plate have always been bad. But this year and last year, he's giving up a good bit of power to right-handed bats. 3.3 home runs per 9, 333 ISO. So, and Toronto's got a handful of really good power bats on the right side. So, that's probably the only thing that I would be interested in this slate.
Nice. I think that, I agree with you. And I think that I agree with you about the righties. I think that Teoscar's price is actually still reasonable. So I think that actually makes some sense. And I have to check out Velasquez's. I don't have it in front of me, his stolen base history.
Teoscar is the second hottest hitter over the last 7 games.
Mm-hmm. He's been amazing.
9 hits, 3 home runs, and they haven't quite got his price up there yet. So
yeah, they actually dropped it down for some reason. So I actually think Teoscar, even as a one-off, is a really good play. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, why did it go down? It went down $400.
It's really to try and figure out the DraftKings pricing, and I've pegged it in other sports at times, and then they totally flip it on me. It's hard to figure out what the hell these guys are thinking. I really can't figure it out. Sheets, how about for you? What is your interest level in this game? Anything specifically?
Nothing. I mean, you can make the case that Steven Matz is not the worst, as we always try to make the case that he's not the worst. 7,900 is, I guess, reasonable if you want a second an SP2 against Philly. I don't want to be. I think you got lucky, Bobby, that the game's not in Philly, because I don't think you want to be messing with Toronto right now.
Is this game at Toronto or is it at that Dunedin?
No, it's at that park, that other park.
That's a good hitter's park, right?
Yeah, it's a good hitter's park. And
I don't want to be taking pitchers against Toronto right now.
No, I understand that against Toronto in general. I do want to make one case for sometimes taking pitchers against them. They aren't as for all the great hitting teams in baseball, they are less patient than most of them. They do end up walking a fair bit, but it's mostly because people pitch around their big hitters to get to guys like even though BGO I actually like, but with what Vlad does and all that stuff, I actually think they do chase early in the count quite a bit, and you can get to them if you have the right thing. But again, you're right. Probably the wrong slate and the wrong park and the wrong.
I like Pearce's eyeball play of the price play of Teoscar.
Simeon is also, he's like the 13th hottest hitter too right now. So
he's on fire. Look, you want a guy who's 0% owned.
Maybe we should stack Toronto. I mean, if you got those guys on fire, we didn't even talk about Vlad or.
I know it maybe. I mean, there is a good argument for it, right? Like, still,
especially if it's going to go under or own with everyone else probably on some of these other ones.
They're definitely going to be unowned. I don't think that's even a question. And like I said, Velasquez is, I mean, he can get wild and he'll give up home runs. That's going to happen. So yeah, maybe a stack here actually makes sense. I think I like it better as a mini stack and try and pick out a few home run spots.
Mhm.
But I do think it's interesting. I still am a little higher on the Yankees, but you made some good cases there. Want to jump over to Atlanta, Milwaukee here?
Wait, one more.
Oh yeah.
I can't pull it up, but Reese Hoskins is pretty cheap, and he crushes lefties. So against Mats, I was trying to see if I could pull up some BVP because I imagine
exactly what I was going to say. That actually was the one thing I was going to say is that just eyeballing it, you know what I mean? Like 4,100 just seems like a really good price for him.
Yeah, he's got it. Let's see what because he's faced him plenty of time. Actually, struggled against Mats over his career. 29 plate appearances. Just well, he's got a 443 WOBA, but a 190 average.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a BVP, he's got 3 home runs against him. I don't know. It depends on if you're a BVP guy or not. But he's Matt's playing time.
How many at bats?
29. So that's a
pretty good.
That's a pretty good sample.
For modern baseball, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And like I said, Hoskins at 4,100. No one is ever going to tell me that it's wrong to play Hoskins at 4,100.
Especially against a lefty.
Against any lefty. You know what I mean? It's even he struggled this year and he hasn't done anything in a while. Guy's still like, what is he? He's sixth in the league in home runs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like
got too much power. If we're just chasing a home run, you know, I get it. Like, if you don't want to burn a first base spot on him, that's all right. But
for a guy who hits fly balls as much as he does too, and he goes the opposite way with them,
it's the park
it's making more sense. The park. I'm sorry. So I'm going to put Hoskins on along with Teoscar as 2 interesting one-offs there. That's a good point there. All right, let's talk about it. Milwaukee, Atlanta. Obviously, I guess. I'm not playing either of these pitchers. I don't think anybody else is going to. I understand that Hauser is actually good. I am surprised they've let him go as long as they do. I am not going to mess with Atlanta like Sheets feels about Toronto. I just don't like doing it. It doesn't feel good. It's hard to get I'm just not going to do it. At the same time, well, I guess if Acuna was out, then I would consider maybe thinking about it. But I just don't think I'm going to do it. At the same time, you have a great lefty power park. I'll always play Freddie Freeman. Like, you have multiple routes to get there. Also, he does run. I just don't think I'm stacking anything in this game. And I understand the people who are going to want to play the cheap Milwaukee stuff against Smiley. And I think that's fine. I'm just getting a little fed up with stacking a team that just sucks. They really can't hit. But I get it. Like, I don't think Smiley is a god. And I think that you've got cheap prices, but who are you even playing? Like, I guess you play Garcia. That's the cheap, obvious bat. But like, I'm not loving any of this. And actually, I think Garcia is hitting like 100 against lefties this year. I know it's early, but like, I don't know. That's where I am. How about you, Pearce?
How is Milwaukee a 20-18 team?
We talked about that.
With their offense.
I know.
If you look at some of these like advanced metrics, that as a team, their numbers are good, and then you go player by player, like where's this data coming from?
It's crazy.
I don't get it, but the numbers on the page say, yeah. I don't think it ever works somehow, but it's Smiley's. I don't know.
There's your one play to me. If you have a play, is Tyrone Taylor. There's a chance he bats cleanup tomorrow against lefties. They've been doing that. He's 2,200. He does have some pop, and I think he would be the guy I would look to for value. So that would be the only guy for me, I think, other than maybe Garcia. So, and they're both. It's a good spot for both of them, but it's just Smiley could turn into someone else. You might get 2 at bats out of Taylor. Let's just keep that in mind.
That's the best hitter relative to his position on Milwaukee is back off the injured list. Omar Narvaez is back. And depending on the other catchers on the slate, I'm always interested in playing him, even lefty, even righty, lefty, right. That doesn't matter. He's definitely got a lot of power, and for a catcher, he's always somebody that I look for, and he has been out for a while. So that's the one thing I just noticed looking real quickly is that he's back. And just kind of again just eyeballing this stuff. I think like Swanson is cheap enough, I guess, for Atlanta. You want to play some Milwaukee guys, Colton Wong maybe. I don't know. Like you said, I'm kind of lukewarm on this game completely.
Let me give you a possible, if you're looking to punt. Let me get this right, just a second.
No, do your thing.
So, Visael Garcia, he's got 340 WOBA this year. His ex-WOBA is 370, so he's kind of been slightly unlucky. At $3,000, he'll get the platoon advantage against Miley. If you're just trying to find one cheap guy, probably hit near the middle of the lineup. I would like to see what his game log is, but
he's I'll pull it up. I mentioned him before. I think he's interesting. It's just, I mean, first of all, I don't understand how they win games. Look at their scores. Do they ever score any runs?
Well, they got great bullpen, so I get that. And their starting pitching's been really good, but you still have to score runs.
Yeah, the pitching is awesome. I guess they just don't score runs. So people who want to stack them, have your fun with it. But I like the Garcia one-off call. I like the Taylor thing. That's where I'm at. Should we move on?
Yep.
Got a big one here. Greinke and Benjamin. This is a spot where I expect some people to go to Houston. I am open to it. If not for certain other things, I would probably be more open to it, but I am definitely open to the stacking Houston. I'm not going to play Greinke even in a good matchup here. I prefer playing the slightly cheaper Kluber. How about you guys? Pearce, start with you, and you'd be interested in the pitching, and then Houston bats, which definitely the stack is going to make some sense.
Yeah, so if we look at the hottest bats in baseball, Kyle Tucker right now, third hottest. And his ex-WOBA has been up there, and his WOBA has been it's been just a matter of time for his luck to finally start to catch, because he's been hitting the ball well all season. It's finally breaking his way. Fourth hottest hitter, Yordan Alvarez. 17, Jose Altuve. 19, Yuli Gurriel. All these guys are in awesome spots, and they're facing the lefty, who is terrible against right-handed bats. And I'm thinking they're all pretty affordable too. I'd have to.
They're up there with the other guys. They're up there with the big guys.
But I think there's a couple cheap ones still. That right. Yeah. Kyle Tucker's 3,300.
Yeah, so he might be batting eighth, but he still is 3,300. You're right. Like that's.
Why is he batting eighth?
He bats eighth against lefties a lot of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to pay up for Alvarez and Altuve and Gurriel, but I mean, getting that discount on Tucker, I mean, that's a not too expensive a stack to get guys that are killing the ball right now against a pitcher that's terrible.
Yeah, and people, I mean, you could look at Kyle Tucker's numbers. Like he hasn't played it in lefty-lefty matchups very often. So this is a spot where, you're going to get him at low ownership in each week. But I still agree, though. Like, I mean, I just don't know about the one-off part of it. I feel like I'd want to have like a little bit more.
Well, let's say the stack goes off. Well, then that means Benjamin gets knocked out pretty quickly.
Oh no, for sure. If you're stacking 100%, I was more thinking from a one-off variety.
One-off
in that one too. For me, if the one-off guys in this game, it would be more the Bregman. I would even pay up for Bregman.
I didn't even mention Bregman.
Yeah, and then you got Alvarez, who again will be lower in the order. So actually, you probably will get low ownership because of the lefty situation. Alvarez and you'll get Alvarez and Tucker cheap. So Tucker low owned, and Tucker's cheap.
So he still has 48% hard contact against left-handed pitching this season.
Yeah, I know he did much better, but this is it's fair enough. Like, this is the first time they've let him play against lefties ever, anywhere that he's been. So actually, he's always been there, but yeah, I have Houston as like maybe my fourth stack of the slate, but I don't have them as my primary. And I do think a full stack makes sense, and including the two lefties will probably keep it lower owned, especially with Coors. But I like that a little bit. Sheets, how about you? What are your thoughts on this game?
They'll be popular. They're fine. It's. I mean, you're gonna get the same thing. You're gonna have the Coors, right? And then people are gonna be looking for the natural
pivot,
anti-Coors pivot, right? And this makes sense. I mean, they're against a guy who's been, a guy either they've never heard of, or if you just even look at his game log, he hasn't really done much. And the Astros have really good hitting. Well, you think about it. I mean, they got Kyle Tucker hitting eighth. I mean, the greatest hitter in baseball, right? He's hitting eighth. And so yeah, these guys all make sense, and they're going to be chalky. I think. I mean, it's not like I mean, Bregman, I guess, is expensive, 5,700, Altuve 50. Okay, so maybe you can't get all these guys in. But Brantley, lefty. I don't know.
Let me throw something out. Like
Brantley's fine against lefties. Yeah, go ahead.
Texas's bullpen has been really good this year,
Okay.
but the way this game's going tonight, though, Fulton Avich has allowed 3 runs already through 3 innings. So I can't imagine he's going to be in there too much longer. So you can see the Rangers bullpen pitching, 5 innings tonight. And then, so even if they are a good bullpen, if they got to play another deep bullpen game again tomorrow night, that's probably a tough situation for them. But if the bullpen doesn't get used much tonight, then maybe you don't maybe you don't stack Houston. Maybe that bullpen comes in and pitches well.
Yeah, I know they've been good. I'm still not a believer in their bullpen personally. But time will tell. But yeah, I sort of like this. I don't think that the lefties are going to be popular. If you're going to make the stacks, if you play Alvarez and Tucker, it's not going to be popular. I promise you. Even if the other guys are 15, 20%, those guys would be 7, 8% in my opinion. Maybe not Tucker, but depends on what happens tonight, I guess, the way that things go. Let's talk about Oakland and Minnesota. I have interest in Montas here. I know things can go either way for him. He's had some tough matchups. I mean, all of these teams are pretty much quality teams other than Detroit, who he dominated. Minnesota is as well. It's just the price tag versus the upside that I have some interest here. Pearce, how about you? And then are you interested in the bats in this game?
I think I'm going to go in. It can either, he's a power pitcher. He can get a bunch of strikeouts or he can give up a bunch of hard contact. And I think he's probably going to give up a bunch of hard contact or enough hard contact that it just doesn't work out for him. So if I would probably look to get, a Minnesota bat to go after him with. I don't know if I would stack against him. I think he just gives up a couple too many long balls. Yeah,
it makes sense. I can't figure out what to do. Sheets, anything you want to do with this game specifically?
6 earned runs against Minnesota already early this season, 3 home runs in that game.
No, I mean, look, it makes some sense. It's just you're talking about paying up for the guys you're probably going to want. Kepler's cheap.
He is really cheap. Montas is really cheap. 60 or what is Montas's price?
Montas $7K.
Okay, that's cheap.
Who you like more, Montas at 60? What is he, 6,000?
7K.
Or Canning at 5,900.
Oh wow. I wasn't really considering Canning that strongly, but I personally would say I like Montas better than that, but I think I might like Peterson better.
Right.
How about you, Pearce?
Wait, how much is Canning?
5,900.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he's 59, and it's crazy.
59?
Yeah.
So I got DraftKings kind of releases the prices for these guys ahead of time. Yeah. So I'm on my spreadsheet. I'm looking at what the pricing was yesterday. He's at 8,700.
Yeah, maybe you're right about this Canning thing.
So why is he so much cheaper? Like that's a huge. Because typically, like the pricing they release the day before for these guys that aren't pitching, it's usually like Glass now was 10.8 yesterday. I think isn't that what is he today?
10.9.
10.9. So the yesterday pricing is typically right there. So why is there a huge 87 to 5,900 within a day?
It's a good question. I don't know what that's about. I guess if you factor in the matchup, it is a tough matchup, but I guess I do think Canning could be on the list. I still, again,
probably. Well, I mean, I just kind of regarded them similarly in that, like, they both can do something, but they're also they're in a tough matchup. You know what I mean? I think Montas is, probably has more upside than Canning, but I think that Montas's matchup might be a little harder. I don't know. So I don't know. That's just what I was thinking about when I was thinking of Montas is comparing him to guys like that.
And he doesn't have to face the greatest hitter of all time in Byron Buxton. So
that's true.
That's lucky for him. We're Pearce. We're been big Buxton guys. He's been good to us in the past, and then it's nice to see him have a huge breakthrough year. So
we had a 3,200.
We had this guy. I mean, Mike Trout hit 400 and had the best slugging percentage of all time in the fucking first month of the season, and yet Byron Buxton was the player of the month.
We had him last year at 3K or whatever the hell we had him.
At 2K, we were having him. It was nuts. He was awesome too. It was always like a home run and a stolen base too. Like it was like a bonus to that guy. All right. Well, I guess this is where a lot of people are going to go. I'm going to go very differently in this game, and this is the guy I would play over Canning. Is Herman Marquet. Marquez. Again, everybody pronounces it differently. I still don't have the name right.
No.
I just want to point out that, like,
Well, I heard your Kitty said 17 different ways the other day.
yeah, that's a good one too.
I hear your kitty. I hear your quitty. Okay, all right. And then you try to watch a broadcaster, and then they don't follow any rules either. I give up on some of these names.
Oh man, it's tough. But I do really like. I love. Look, it's weird. I'm a guy who will play pitchers in Coors. I did it tonight. We'll see how that goes. I believe enough in his stuff. I know that Cincinnati's good. There's strikeouts in that offense. Joey Votto's not there to have 17 pitch at bats. I think at 5,600, if you want to talk about upside and low ownership, this is the guy I'm using. I would rather take the talent over everything else. And as much as he can be hit, like, his numbers are oddly, like, I'm not gonna say they're good overall, but they're like reasonably comparable at home to on the road. And I'm not talking about, you forget all the other regular numbers. Look at some of the outings he's already had. I mean, first of all, at 5,600, if you wanted to play the stacks you want to play other than Cincinnati, of course, he had 20 at home against Philly. He had 26 at 28 against the Mets there. He had the Dodgers, which is, like, that's tough. Okay. That was especially when the Dodgers were hot. You have, he had the bad game against Arizona, but even still, I mean, like, the strikeouts are still are always there. He's going to be over a strikeout per inning most of the time. I think that there's plenty of routes for him to get 20 plus fantasy points on this slate. And I think he's got upside on that. So I will take a shot and recommend potentially playing Herman Marquez or Marquez. Pearce, am I crazy?
I mean, no, it's what it always is with Marquez. He can get strikeouts, and he's had good games in Colorado. It's not like he only pitches well on the road. He can have good games, but figuring out when he does it, I think I was on him when he was pitching at San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and he sucked, which makes no sense. I know San Francisco's been good against right-handed pitching, but they're not great. Posey was not at 100%, and he still couldn't get the job done. He's hard to figure out. He's very talented, but I'm actually on the other side. I kind of like Wade Miley here, which.
Oh, okay. Talk a little bit about that.
All right. So if we look at what Wade Miley's pitching, obviously he's threw a no-hitter. So he's pitching a lot better.
I feel always good about pitcher. You know what? If you tell me Wade Miley's going to throw a no-hitter, I'll take him. That's what he's always joking about. Everybody says that about everything. Yeah, if you give me 35 minutes.
He might pay off the 7,100 price tag.
Yeah, go ahead. He's been on people. Keep going. Sorry.
So we can see that he's pitching better, and we look and try to see what has changed. Especially with, like we talked about with Kluger, when you have a pitcher who's been around for a while, then all of a sudden they're pitching well. And so you look and see, okay, what are they doing different? So he's increased his changeup use. It's the highest of his career, and it's been his best pitch of his career, best changeup he's ever had. And Colorado's below average against changeups. And then when you think about what pitches are going to work in Colorado, you try to stay away from, the breaking balls, but a changeup will work. And so if he's pitching a fastball and changeup, and he feels comfortable using that in Cincinnati, if that's what he's because that's what I'm assuming he did. He's trying to find stuff that's going to work in that small ballpark. And if it's working so far, then I assume that it's going to work in Colorado as well. And Colorado's offense is terrible. Trevor Story is going to worry you because he crushes lefties, and he crushes lefties at Coors. Hampson, I think Hampson hits lefties well. And there's another guy, but Blackman, he's done. The lineup doesn't worry me at all. They're hitting a 90 WRC plus against lefties, a 150 ISO. And this is a team that plays in Course.
I know you're right. And they played half their games there. So it's not like this is just a fluky thing. It's actually, I think they played more than half their games there. They've let people down plenty of times this year in stacks. I think everyone should be pretty familiar that this lineup is just not that good. There's a couple guys, but at his price, hey, you know what, Story, you can have your home run. I think I'll still be fine. I agree. I still love Story. I don't think I can get to Miley personally because you're making great points, and I think that it makes a lot of sense, and it's taking the exact same argument I made. Again, if he was really a lot cheaper, not that I even need the savings, I'm just looking at it from a huge slate point of view. I think people won't play the Colorado bats as much. So I think they'll play Story, but I think they'll play like maybe Connor Joe at first because he's going to be super cheap. That's the other one that's going to stand out. He's batting, what did he bat second tonight? And, against the lefty, you'd imagine that he would be batting near the top of the lineup. He's 2,200 and he's in Coors. And Wade Miley, as much as he can be good, I am not going to take the small sample size. I'll take enough long-term. And he's been overall, he's always been a better pitcher than people always want to pick on him, but he's not that bad. I just think that I'd rather play the other guys at 7K like Montas. Although I might feel like a fool at the end of the day because I'll be saying I'm playing Montas against Minnesota and then I'm playing Miley against Colorado. Forget the stadiums. Just put that in there. And it sounds better to say Miley against Colorado because you're right. They just can't hit left-handed pitching. They can't hit right-handed pitching for that matter either.
It's some of their best, like McMahon, he's a lefty. Nunez, he's a lefty. So they're not going to be able to do much. Like I mentioned, Blackman's, I don't know if Blackman's turned it on or not. I thought he was pretty much done for, but
yeah.
No, there's no one in this lineup that really terrifies me. And so
there's no one in there that scares me. To get access to the environment, I have interest in a little bit of Connor Joe and Story. I don't think Connor Joe's all that great, and I don't like using a first base spot, but he is 2,200, and it allows you to like get some, again, cheap access to the Coors for a guy hitting at the top of the lineup in a game that, as much as we talk about how we like the pitchers, could easily go completely sideways and end up, 12 to 11.
it's really weird to talk about liking the pitchers in Colorado.
That's how we started.
Not
Right?
really great pitchers.
Yeah. What do you think, Sheets?
So I'm, you know me, I got a couple of crosses to bear in this game because I got my own demons that are kind of fighting against me because we have multiple things going on here. Number one is that you know how much I like to play Marquee, right? And I like to play him at Coors also, but I got to tell you, as the kids, I'm a little scared, man. I mean, like the Reds are rough, man. I don't know if I could ever play a pitcher against them wherever. Even if it was in the toughest park in the world, So I got that battling against me, and then I got Wade Miley, who I'd love to freaking play somebody against Colorado, but you know me, I can't play a guy off a no-hitter. I'd kill myself. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, I'd be like just trying my best to stack every which way from Sunday against them. But as Pearce is bringing up, I mean, like Colorado has just been atrocious, and it's going to take a while for people, I think, to realize how bad they really are. So I'm probably just going to pray for snow, so I don't have to make any decisions in this game because I'm probably going to just fade the whole freaking thing.
Wade Miley's fly ball rate to right-handed bats is just 22%, 21% to lefties. I mean, that's a significant change, I bet, over his career. He should have realized this in Baltimore. You can give up fly balls, but for him to get that kind of a ground ball rate, he should be really safe in this spot.
I love it. I
want to know
why.
By the way, you guys noticed that. See May 12th there. They show him there, but they don't show him with any pitches.
I think he pinch ran or something.
No, he pinch hit.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Yeah.
They had him pinch hitting, I think, with the bases loaded in extra innings.
I've seen more pitchers pinch hit this year. I swear to God.
Didn't do it.
I'm just saying this what's on my screen right now is what a lot of people are going to see and do, especially after Fuentes just hit a home run just now. You got a 2,400, a 2,200 top of the order guys potentially. Fuentes literally could end up a lot higher in the order. I'm just saying it's going to be the basis for what a lot of people do. So I'm not saying we have to do it. I'm just saying that's what people will do.
See, here's the difference. Jimmy Butler goes to halftime with like a bruised eye and doesn't come back for the whole game. TJ McConnell goes to the bench. They say he's questionable return. He comes out and he puts up freaking 44 fantasy points in the second half. That's the difference.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler.
Anyway,
okay, that's your argument here. Come on, man. I'm just kidding with you. All right, but anyway, I'm
not bitter, and I'm not just saying that because I had 100% of them. I'm not biased at all.
He's not out tonight, Jimmy Butler.
No, I'm yesterday.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing with you. But yeah, I think those are some good points, and I do think that obviously, after all those, we can both agree that you can always stack both of these teams in Colorado. I don't think that's going to take a genius to figure out. I will differ from my man Sheets on this one and say that my top pitcher, if I'm paying him for anybody, is as it always has been, as it always will be, until I see something change. It's always going to be Scherzer, unless I don't ever have a reason not to. Arizona doesn't give me a reason not to. The roof being open doesn't give me a reason not to. I just don't care. He has a longer leash than everybody. His strikeout rate is incredible. I don't even almost care about matchups or anything with him. When I can fit him in, he's going to be my number one. And again, I already mentioned Kluber, and Marquis is more of a long shot tournament play, but if he and Kluber would be my natural way of trying to go. Pearce, what do you think about Scherzer, and are you interested in this game?
The only thing that always worries me with Scherzer is just that, and a lot of times it's just a solo shot here or there, which really doesn't kill him. But it is that, when you throw that hard, it sometimes turns into some really hard hits that go over the fence. And
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
He throws he doesn't walk anybody. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. Those strikes, and he throws fast, hard strikes, and he strikes out 10 batters, but he also runs the risk of giving. So I want to look through the lineup real quick and let Sheets talk and see if I can find any left-handed bats I'm pretty sure there aren't any lefty bats for Arizona that worry me, but
Peralta would be the one for me, but that's it. I bet you he has a long history though with these guys. He should have a pretty decent history with most of the guys from Arizona.
We should have a decent history with everybody in Major League Baseball by now.
He's gonna smash. He just had 14 strikeouts against the Yankees. He gets freaking double-digit strikeouts every freaking game. He'll give up 3 home runs and have 35 fantasy.
It is a ton of lefties, but they're not other than Peralta. I don't see any power. I don't care. Singles aren't. That's not what's going to happen. It's power against him. And
so the very best DFS pitchers in my mind, and Pearce, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, are always the guys who give up the most home runs, because the current way that baseball is played, walking too many batters is for the top pitchers is way, way worse than giving up the occasional solo shot. You look at him, he's giving up home runs all the time. What is he doing? Smashing. You know what I mean?
Home run's one pitch, and so it doesn't, you walk a guy, there's 10 pitches in your jam, and then the inning just keeps on dragging on, and your leash just gets shrunk. You can give up a home run and pitch 9 innings easy. You can give up 2 home runs and pitch 9 innings easy. It's
so let's cut to it, Bobby. So you're gonna try to play. Oh, you don't even like last night. I was gonna say you're gonna try to play both of them together.
I could do it. No, I do like last now, but I think that this is. I would rather play the National League pitcher against the worst offense. Well, I don't know, or debatably, I guess. No, it's not. I don't know what it is. It's close.
They're 94 WRC plus, 310 WOBA, 156 ISO. They're not hitting righties very well.
They aren't, and it's hard to measure though, because the early stats, they played the Dodgers, you have Bauer and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they played in Coors also. You know what I mean? So it's it is hard to measure the overall numbers for me. But I personally, I'm into Scherzer and I'm into Washington. That would be just ahead of Houston for me as a stack. The problem is I don't like particularly stacking semi bullpen-ish games, and I think that they'll let Riley Smith go as long as he's going okay, 5 innings. But if it's going to be 4, if he has any trouble, and then you have just a long bullpen, I don't believe in their bullpen, but I don't really want to play a bullpen full stack against on a major slate with Coors and the Yankees in a good spot and a bunch of teams that I could argue for stacking. The only thing is that I will say Soto is one of my favorite plays on the slate. I will say that I like Schwarber a ton. If the roof is open, which I expect it to probably be again, even Josh Bell, who's struggling at 3,600, it's a pretty cheap secondary stack for me. So I like Scherzer in the secondary stack. How about Sheets? We'll start with you and then go to Pearce.
Yeah, these guys are cheap. I mean, except for Turner, that's the same comment as always. And everybody's always cheap except for Turner.
Right.
Soto's, I don't know how he's doing since he's come back, but I'm presuming that he's either good or he will be good. And those other guys are cheap, man. Bell, Castro. There was the other guy. Those guys in particular. Not Zimmerman. Whatever. The Washington, I think, is going to rate as a very, very strong play. And I'm kind of with you on it.
Nice. How about you, Pearce?
I want to look at these individual bats and see because there's a reason why they're cheap, isn't it? Because they're not. I mean, I get with Soto coming back, it's going to definitely boost the offense, but the Nationals' offense has not been very good this year for the most part.
It's true.
So
They were missing Soto for some of those games too.
yes, yeah. So that definitely when you're missing your best hitter, it's definitely going to hurt.
One of the best 5 in baseball, maybe. Yeah, it definitely hurts.
Yeah. But you still expect the other guys to do something, and none of them have done anything all year other than Turner. Turner's fine. Turner does what Turner does, but he's not cheap. You look at everyone else, none of them. I guess Harrison has a 344 WOBA, but he has no power right now.
Right.
And none of them are hitting, which then, so if just a little thought experiment, if you took Soto out of this lineup, would we be talking about playing Riley Smith?
Interesting.
I mean, I'm probably not on this slate because there's all these other options, but at his price, who's in the lineup for the Nationals? I mean, Turner's fine, but Turner's not going to kill you. You got a 6,200?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Like, I just feel like it's the wrong slate to think about that for me.
It is.
Even if Soto was out.
The point is, like, so to go back with that, then
I hear you, though. I hear what you're saying.
why would we stack the Nationals if Soto wasn't it? So again, I would just say this way: if Soto wasn't playing, would you stack the Nationals?
Probably not.
So
I wouldn't actually, to be honest, I don't think I would even consider it. Even if it's not the one who does the damage, and I went for a 3-man stack the other way. Having that bat in the lineup who's going to make you throw 10 pitches if you don't hit your spots, having that bat in the lineup who's going to walk and take his 2 walk, you know what I mean? That's beneficial to everybody else, obviously. But yeah, I hear you. I hear that
Soto he hit a home run and he's got 1 home run.
He's been hurt all year. Like, I don't think we can judge him based on this year. I'll tell you right now.
So he's not healthy in this game either then. So we've got a Soto he can't play the field. Right? Well, is he playing the field now? Yeah, he is. So he's not 100% Soto.
That's true.
I don't think I could stack the Nationals. And if everyone else is going to, fine, go ahead.
No, I don't think everyone else is going to. I think that they're cheap enough to where they're going to be, for me at least, a secondary stack option.
Okay. All right.
I think that's fair. How about so yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's not to be excited about all the batters. I know that, but we know Schwarber has power. It is a good hitting environment. These guys have played in a lot of cold weather games and really, really bad hitting environments this year so far. So I'm giving them a little bit of a boost. Arizona, when the roof is open, is not Coors, but before they did the humidifier and everything, it was getting pretty close to Coors.
And the Nationals missed that first week too, which and so whatever gains they had from spring training were completely erased. And they definitely struggled right out of the gates because of that. So,
right,
a lot of these season-long stats are suppressed because they just had a really tough draw there.
Yeah, it's totally fair. All right, we are going to talk about the Dodgers and Miami. I am not going to play Clayton Kershaw, as you know. Sheets knows he's probably my favorite player of all time, but I am not going to play him in this matchup at this price. Again, because I think his strikeout upside is deceptive, and he actually does have strikeout upside. I don't think that his upside matches the other guys around him.
Yeah, I think the issue, like you're kind of alluding to, is that between Glasnow and Scherzer, I mean, one of them is getting 30. You know what I mean? Like at least. So, I mean, for 10K.
But isn't everyone else going to do that same thing, have that same thought process, and Kershaw is going to be completely overlooked?
Yeah.
That's
the only reason he might not be is Kershaw. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, Bobby. Maybe it's but I always find that Kershaw still gets name recognition, still gets owned. And I think that people do still like the stream against Miami somewhat. So I'm conceptually totally with you, by the way, Pearce. I mean, like if you could show me 7% ownership on Kershaw and 40 on Scherzer and 30 on Glasnow, yeah, sign me up. But I don't think it's going to work that way with this spot. What do you think, Bobby? What do you think of the ownership here?
I think that's a really good point. And the more you think about it, I mean, you just take his recent history and the games where he struggled, even like the game that we got a windy game in Chicago in the middle of the day. Strange game, really the earliest, I think the shortest appearance of his career, whatever that happened. Then he pitches. This is a guy who's more on his rest than more obsessive and compulsive, and that's partly leads to some postseason issues he has, than anybody in baseball that I know of other than Zach Greinke. but he is really weird about when he doesn't pitch on his exact days. He's got his normal rest. It makes a lot of sense. It's Miami. Obviously, you're not too afraid of anything. And I also, just to speak to more to the point of pitching him, like, look at the matchups he's had so far. Like, again, at Colorado, at Oakland, which is still a, again, it's a American League park. Washington, he dominated. San Diego, he dominated, and then pitched well and didn't get the win. But anyway, but he's played some, Cincinnati, these are good offenses. The Angels, and then Chicago in the win game. So this is the worst offense he would have faced. And maybe it is wrong to overlook him. Maybe I did pass too quickly on this one.
Yeah. The other thing though, again, now I'm looking ahead a little bit. Probably, see, and I didn't know where we're headed as far as the slate goes, but I probably think the two best plays on the slate that people are going to play the most are going to be the next two games. So maybe, like you said, maybe Kershaw will be super duper low owned. He's got to put up a number, man.
Yep.
Maybe I'll think about it.
I'm putting him on my list. I still think I prefer the other guys a little bit, but it's he's definitely on my list. How about you, Pearce? For me, I'm not gonna. I think the Dodgers can always go off, whatever, but I'm not gonna try and pick on Alcantara personally.
I don't know. I'm looking at Kershaw and just kind of diving into these numbers and seeing if there's anything that pops out. And he's thrown his slider a lot this season, more than ever before. And he's thrown a lot less fastballs, and it's grading out really good. And that could translate into more. I don't know. And he's not getting the strikeouts yet, but as you mentioned, the reasons why that possibly is. But the Marlins 26% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching. I know Glasnow and Scherzer probably have a higher probable chance of going above 10 strikeouts. I don't know if Kershaw's that far behind, really.
Okay. I'm actually curious to see what the K props will be tomorrow too.
That probably will give us a really good idea about.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I would like to dive more into look at Scherzer's game, not Scherzer's games. Look at Kershaw's games, and look at the way that he's approached them and why maybe his numbers aren't as flashy as the other guys.
Well, the thing is, they actually are outside of what I just said. You have the game at Chicago, then he pitches on short rest because he only threw 39 pitches. That's just not what he does. And he actually pitched well against the Angels in that game even anyway. And I'm looking at, for tournaments, I'm not caring so much about the median here. I want the 25 to 35 or higher. And I think that's a really good chance for tomorrow. I think he's had a really tough schedule. San Diego twice alone, much less pitching. Again, with all we say about Coors, but that was the one time he got really rocked. Was the first game of the year. But I do think that there is that upside. So I'm kind of into it. I think that right now I've got him pretty close. Sheets made some good points. So I think that I'm going to let ownership and umpire data and a lot of the other things help me out on that one.
Okay.
But I think we're off the bats, right? Yeah, sounds like we are.
Yeah, no, I don't want anyway.
The Dodgers can always go out, like Seager, whatever, but it's not a specifically good matchup for anybody. I'm going to say no to both of these pitchers in San Diego. And
sure.
You mean Musgrove?
Yeah. It's
interesting. It's a righty-filled lineup. I'm open to it. I still prefer Kluber's matchup.
Right.
Musgrove, since the no-hitter, has not been good. He hasn't been okay.
That'll do it.
Or since not the no-hitter, the one after that. Yeah, you're right. Everybody falls apart. Look, mildly interesting, but I still prefer Kluber. How about you, Pearce?
I can't remember. I wanted to look a little bit more at Musgrove because his game. I thought his game after the no hitter was fine. It was the
one after that. It was after that he blew up.
Yeah, because that's when I wrote him up at DraftKings and he had a terrible game. Because his game after it was fine. He didn't go as long because there was one he only went. So he threw the no hitter against Texas. Then he only went 4 innings against Pittsburgh. But that's because he went kind of long in it, and they just took it easy on him.
Right, exactly.
So he was fine. They were playing it safe. He looked fine in the next game. I wrote him up, and he struck out 13 Brewers. So it was well after that no-hitter. He was fine.
It was the one game that he was good against, and that was the Brewers, in all fairness. Just play devil's advocate. Sorry, keep going.
I mean, he threw the no hitter against Texas, and then 2 games later, he strikes out 13. Man, I know it's the Brewers, and they strike out. And then you're right, though, he has kind of fallen off. Now I wonder, like, what are so 4 strikeouts in 3 innings? I wonder. Before I completely write him off, I would like to know, like, what specifically is he doing? What's the problem? Because he is facing St. Louis, who against righties have not been good. 86 WRC plus, 292 WOBA. It's not a lineup really that scares me that much. But I mean, it'll take me some time, so I don't know. But I guess, the initial reaction would be, no on Musgrove until we find out what's the problem.
Right.
Sounds
I
good.
actually think that, like, he does make, look, if you're going to spend a little bit down, I don't mind it. I didn't want to write him off. I just don't think I just personally have a preference towards Kluber, and I'm looking in that range to either.
Yeah, those guys are clear. Like, we don't have to, like, inspect them.
Right.
So,
Well, then the next game is probably going to have the. I mean, if people are willing to wait till 10:30 to play a pitcher, I think the next game is probably going to have the SP.
So you're talking about, which one are you talking about?
Savali.
Savali at Seattle. I think that honestly, some of the ownership will be dictated based on what happens tonight. I am okay with leaving it alone. Personally, again, I prefer Kluber. I may change my mind. I may look a little deeper into this between now and the slate tomorrow, but as of right now, I have Savali behind Kluber and Musgrove personally. I know how bad Seattle's been, so we can talk about the stats and everything. I'm just not all that interested in it. And I would say that, like, Flexen is just good enough to where I don't particularly want to pick on him in Seattle. So I'm not really interested in any part of this game. How about you, Pearce?
Savali had that really good game against Cincinnati last week, right? I was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah.
He's got a easier matchup here, but I mean, Kluber's my guy in that spot, so I'm going to stick with Kluber. Unless
you guys, and your
what are we missing? What are we? Well, let's
just say, for argument's sake, we know Kluber has 10 strikeout upside. I'm not sure Savali has ever struck out 10 guys in a game, and he's 9,300. It's not like we're talking about a 7,300 against Seattle. He's 93, and he doesn't strike a lot of people out. That's really hard to pay for that price for guys who don't have a high K rate for me. Sheets.
Okay.
Go with it. Okay, like, I like it.
No, I don't like playing Savali at all. I was gonna make the case for Seattle.
Okay.
Presuming that people are gonna all play Savali. I didn't realize that Kluber was gonna be such a good play.
I don't know that he is. I want to speculate on it.
I thought I was being kind of out there by liking.
So did I completely. I just thought that to me makes the most sense. I see the path the easiest.
What about
the upside?
Trying to stay. I guess we're back to the Montas Canning situation, right? I mean, like, maybe that's the.
Yeah, I would throw in Marquis, but for me, it's.
I'm ignoring that. I'm literally deleting.
Or Wade Miley.
Yeah, I'm deleting that game from my computer. I'm just presuming that game snows out or something. I just pray for it. It's gonna be one of the two, Glasnow or Scherzer, with. I mean, for me, if I had to guess right now, then I'd talk myself off of Savali. I just have this weird feeling Savali's going to project well. And then Pavetta. No, I'll end up playing Peterson like an idiot, right? That's probably.
I don't think it's the one thing.
Peterson, Montas, like these Canning, like all those guys. Maybe Montas is the idea because he actually does have strikeout upside.
Yeah,
if someone's building the lineup on the phone, who are they putting in as their pitchers?
What's that, Sheets? I'm sorry, what's that, Pearce?
If they're putting together a lineup on their phone or whatever, and they're putting in the pitchers, we know, like Sheets just said, it'll be either Glasnow, Scherzer, or one of these top guys. But who's going to be a second name that they click on? Do you think?
That's a really good question. I actually think Musgrove will get a little bit of attention. I'm interested.
It's going to be good. You guys. I'll tell you who it's going to be. You guys hit it right on the head. It's going to be Kluber. It'll be 7:20. It'll be 7:05 p.m. They're not going to wait for Savali. They're just going to play.
I mean, I guess what is his game log? Because right there, he's going to look at game logs, right?
They're going to look at game logs, but he's been good lately. And he just had the massive game against Detroit. Baltimore is an opponent that he shouldn't have a tough time with. I know he didn't got a ton of guys the last time out, but even like I'm okay living with the 20 to 40 fantasy point range, and even taking my downside with the 15 that he puts up occasionally. But I think he works himself into the game, into it every year. I don't know if the ownership will go there, but I kind of hope it doesn't, because I think I'm going to be doing it.
All right.
And I think it's easy. Like the thing is, like, look, you look at this just in terms of construction, and while it looks, not to say you have to play Tyrone Taylor or Connor Joe or any of these guys, but like you can easily find good bats in great game environments, or good matchups that cost you nothing, and you'll easily be able to stack whoever you want around those values. So I think you can pay double up at pitchers.
You have Chris Flexen, who struck out over his last 2 games, two batters, and no one's going to have any patience, tell you, to wait on this game. Maybe the late night hammer Cleveland stat takes it all.
Yeah, that is pretty weird. You don't see that 6 innings, 2 strikeouts 6.1, 2 strikeouts very often. That's pretty wild. And 4 before that with no strikeouts. But again, he gets the ball, on the ground, and I guess it works enough just for me not to want to stack Seattle on a major slate. How about you, Pearce? Any interest in stacking Seattle?
Oh, I meant Cleveland.
Or Cleveland, sorry.
No, I didn't have much interest in Cleveland. But the thing that I'm thinking of now is, it seems like even even if you play Kluber, you're spending a lot of money at pitcher. Are people going to end up back at Milwaukee again, like trying to get cheap stack?
They may. They very well may, actually.
We didn't talk about Texas either, though. I think Texas is like Greinke has been pretty bad against right-handed bats. I bet you can get some cheap righties from Texas, maybe.
But do you want to stack Texas on that big a slate?
No, I'm not saying I want to. They never worked for me in the past. But
no, see, the thing is that Bobby, I talk about Greinke's like, he's got just enough.
Yeah, no, he does, but his number. I'm not. You're right. I know I've heard you guys talking about this before, about how people have been trying to stack against Greinke since the dawn of time, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, because he's a good pitcher. Good pitchers can give up hard contact. People have to understand this. Pitchers who know how to pitch it. He'll give up some damage, but in my opinion, I can't stack against him. I have no problem if anyone wants to play a one-off on Texas. I still would lean Gallo, even though I understand his struggles against righties. There's no real righty on Texas that I feel I'd want to play on this giant slate. On a smaller slate, maybe we could have a conversation, I think, on that one, but I just don't see it on this small slate.
Huh.
I don't know if they'll play any righties. They don't. They've been every righty who goes against Texas. You just see a team with 8 lefties or 9 lefties.
I know you can't even stack them, because I was thinking, well, you're gonna get a really cheap stack there, but it's almost, there's not any righties. They don't hit anywhere near each other.
Right.
It's almost just logistically impossible to stack the righties against Greinke. But another thing about Greinke, did he win the Cy Young with Los Angeles that year?
Oh yeah, he was spectacular.
And but his BABIP was something like 220 that year. But it's just like, I know people will look at BABIP and say, oh, well, it's luck, but it's kind of like a skill with a guy like Greinke, who just, I don't know, he can allow contact and just, it works, because that's what he's pitching to half the time.
It's like what the old Sandy Koufax thing. They asked him what made him stop being good and start being great, because he was like an average pitcher for his first 5 years in the major leagues. He said, I stopped trying to make him miss. I started trying to make him hit it. Yeah. And that's how Greinke pitches. Never great for DFS, but also not great to pick on, in my opinion. Although he will give up a bomb or two, it's just on a giant slate, it's really hard for me to go against him.
How many seasons is he in now? Because I remember when he was, an 18-year-old kid. Back when I was an 18-year-old kid. He's probably my age.
How old are you? You don't have to share that if you don't.
No, we're the same age. We're both 37. Yeah. He was born 3 months after me.
Oh, man.
Because I remember when he came on the scene, it was awesome. And then, boy, did things go bad quickly for him. And I thought we would never hear from him again. And then
he's a lunatic of a human being who's really, really got some mental
Oh
health.
yeah, he had all the mental health stuff. And they made a big deal about it, but then boom, he was back. I never thought he would recover from that. It felt like who was the Cardinals pitcher who turned into a hitter?
Ankrum or Ankry or something.
Thank you.
Yeah, it felt a lot like that. Where
Pretty impressive that he turned himself into a center fielder and a hitter, though. Like, I thought that was always amazing. Guys, this was great. I think we're pretty much got it wrapped up. You guys, we'll be with you guys tomorrow. And Pearce, this is great to have you here, man. Like, it's really, really great talking with you. I think we need to do this more often. We'll find a way to do it more structured and so we can keep it shorter for the people. But this was like really, really, really good.
it was fun.
Yeah, had a great time. Sheets, have anything else before we get out of here?
Nope.
How about you, Pearce?
No.
All right. Good luck to everybody out there, and hopefully we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.